Let's get straight into the politics, shall we, this morning? We're joined now by Shadow Chancellor to the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghardt. Good to see you this morning, Mr Burghardt.
Morning.
Morning. We're talking about the state visit. We're talking about the state visit of President Trump this week. Are you concerned that the Lord Mandelson saga could threaten to overshadow this historic state visit?
Absolutely. And last week, we were calling on the government to just come clean about what had happened with the whole Mandelson affair so that it didn't overshadow this visit. It's a very important visit by the President of the United States. They haven't done that. It's dragged on into this week. And we're going to be trying again today to get the government to publish all of the Mandelson Epstein files so that everybody can see what the Prime Minister knew, when he knew it, and how this appointment came to be made in the first place.
So if he doesn't do that, Alex, you're saying that questions will be asked?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sure that the President does not want this being a feature of his visit here. I'm sure that nobody really wants this being a feature of his visit here. Let's deal with this today. The Prime Minister has it in his power to tell us what he knew when. When he came to the House of Commons last week on Wednesday for Prime Minister's questions and defended Lord Mandelson, said that Mandelson had his full confidence. We now know that that Number 10 knew that there were a lot more emails detailing his intimate relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, with Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Why did he come to the House of Commons and defend Mandelson so firmly, given what Number 10 already knew? But more importantly, Eamon, how is it that Peter Mandelson got appointed in the first place when the vetting process must have thrown up this information in the first place? So either the vetting process got it wrong, very unlikely, we have good security services in this country, or somebody kept that information from the Prime Minister, which would be very serious indeed, and that could only have been one of his most senior aides, like his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, or the Prime Minister knew and he made the appointment anyway. Somebody is going to have to take responsibility for this, and at the moment, nobody is taking responsibility.
Big questions to ask there. The first small boat migrants are due to be deported on commercial flights to France every day of this week, it's being reported. This part of this one-in, one-out deal with France. Are you confident that those flights are going to take off, or are you expecting a slew of last-minute legal challenges?
I'll believe it when I see it, but it's not one in, one out. Look, we see how many thousands of people are crossing the Channel on a regular basis, and a small number of people being sent back to France is not going to act as the meaningful deterrent that we need. The meaningful deterrent that the Conservative Party left behind when we lost the election last year. Unless you have very, very large numbers of people being sent to a third country as quickly as possible, the trafficking gangs are going to still continue to operate. So I just think that this is a distraction. I don't think it's going to make any difference at all.
Have you had a random call lately from a strange number, maybe trying to sell you something or even scam you? If so, your info could be out there. That's because of data brokers, shady companies that scrape the internet for your personal details and sell them to marketers or even scammers. These days, scammers can even use AI to mimic your friends' voices and trick you into sending money. It's not just annoying. Data brokers often target vulnerable people with high-interest loans or sketchy offers. But there is a solution. Incogni, the sponsor of this video. Incogni contacts data brokers on your behalf and requests your info be deleted from their databases. And because your data can keep popping up, Incogni keeps sending removal requests to make sure it stays gone. They've just launched a new unlimited plan with custom removals. If you find your info on a weird website, just send them the link and their privacy team will work to get it taken down. Getting started is easy. Hit the link in the description, create your account and let Incogni handle the rest. It's risk-free for 30 days and you'll get 60% off an annual plan with the code GBNews. Take back control of your data with Incogni.
On Saturday, it was the Unite the Kingdom rally in the centre of London. It was billed as a free speech rally about the protection of British religion, British identity. Reports that there are between 110,000 and 150,000 people, potentially more, on the streets of London. What was your response to Unite the Kingdom rally on Saturday?
So I think that you've got to sort of see this through several different lenses, and I think obviously the small number of people who attacked police officers were completely wrong, and I think they're going to be punished, and that's quite right. But there were a large number of people there who were not violent, who I think were showing standing up for their country and for patriotism, and I think the key element of that is the defence of free speech, which I think is extremely important. Keir Badenoch, leader of my party, is commissioning a new review from Toby Young, Lord Young, who is head of the Free Speech Union, on how we can protect free speech in our country. So I think it's very, very important we see it through that light as well.
What light do you see the idea that only 4 out of 10 pupils nowadays really understand what the Battle of Britain was all about, and 4 out of 10 don't understand, or I should say the 6 out of 10 have no idea who won it, for instance? I mean, you have that title, the Chancellor to the Duchy of Lancaster, which is such an emotive term when it comes to flight during the Second World War, the famous Lancaster bomber.
Yes, quite right. Look, I used to be a history teacher, and hearing those statistics this morning, I just feel very sad. I know this is entirely wrong, that we have a generation, perhaps more than one generation of young people growing up not knowing some of the fundamental things about our history. And I think it's not just our recent history. Very important things like the Battle of Britain and Dunkirk, everybody ought to know about. But also, if you went back about 30, 40 years, you'd find that most school children going through the English school system would have learnt a bit about everything from kind of the Romans to today. And they'd have an understanding of the kind of the long progress of English history. That helps bring the world to life. It helps you understand things around you. And now we have a much more pick and mix approach to history, which I think lets young people down. We've got to change that.
So as a former history teacher, do you think that the Battle of Britain and Second World War studies need to be part of the curriculum?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, the Battle of Britain is one of those moments where the country overcomes the odds to protect what's so precious about our island story. And if those men and women had not succeeded in those dark days in the 1940s, the future of British history, of European history, of world history could have been very, very different indeed. And let me tell you, in that other scenario, nobody would have been able to march for free speech in London yesterday.
Good point. Alex Burkhardt, MP, lovely talking to you. Thank you very much indeed for putting all that into perspective for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, let's speak now to GB News' political correspondent, Olivia Utley, who's in the studio with us. Olivia, you were listening across to all of that. What did you make of it?
Well, it's quite a nice position for the Conservatives to be in, really, and I felt I was in PMQs on Wednesday, and it seemed as though Keir Badenoch finally was making some headway. She was forensic in her analysis of Keir Starmer. Finally, the Conservatives are getting a slightly easier ride. Keir Starmer is in a really, really tricky situation. I just want to reiterate just how unbelievable it is, really, the situation that the Prime Minister finds himself in. Just over a year ago, he won the 3 seats fewer than Tony Blair in 1997, an absolute landslide majority. And now we are seriously talking about the end of his premiership. Why is that? Well, what Labour MPs I've been speaking to say is that it basically comes down to a lack of sort of political instinct. This Mandelson affair is just the latest in a whole slew of political missteps, really. In the Mandelson case, it sounds as though, why was Mandelson appointed in the first place when obviously there were concerns about his relationship with Epstein, and the head of Number 10 was warned about it. Morgan McSweeney was warned about it at the time. But then, almost more importantly, from a Keir Starmer perspective, he had this cache of emails on Tuesday morning. He sacked Mandelson on Thursday. In the meantime, on Wednesday, he'd gone into Parliament and defended Mandelson. Why did he do that? Really, really strange decision to make. And, of course, very similar to what he did with Angela Rayner, where it became evident to almost everyone in the country who's interested in politics that the Deputy Prime Minister was going to have to go. But the Prime Minister stuck by her till the very last minute. And then you think also of some of the policy U-turns that he's had to make, the welfare U-turn and the winter fuel radical U-turn. And what Labour MPs are beginning to say, privately some of them, publicly some of them, Clive Lewis has come out publicly to say that perhaps Keir Starmer just doesn't have what it takes. Obviously, that brings us on to, well, who would replace him? The person who at the moment seems to be on manoeuvres is Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Manchester. He is in cahoots, by the looks of it, with Lucy Powell, who was sacked by Starmer in the reshuffle a couple of weeks ago. She is now standing to be deputy leader of the party. If she won that deputy leadership election, then her and Burnham could prove together a pretty challenging duo for the Prime Minister. There are some questions about how Burnham would manage to get in. He's not an MP at the moment. He's Mayor of Manchester. He would have to win a by-election. Is there a by-election at the moment that Labour could even win? But if you overcome a few of those hurdles, then Keir Starmer is looking at a pretty difficult situation.